She satisfied slammed a $50,000 check on the table and told him to disappear. Marcus didn't flinch. He picked it up, tore it in half, and said 5 words that made Victoria Ashford, the woman who'd fired 37 nannies, destroyed 2 therapists' careers, and made a grown man cry in a courtroom, go completely silent. No one in the Ashford empire had ever refused her money. No one had ever looked her in the eye like that. But what Marcus did next didn't just freeze her. It shattered everything she believed about power, about control, and about her own father. What he whispered to her daughter changed everything, and you won't believe what happened when the old man found out. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. You don't want to miss what's coming. Marcus Reed's phone buzzed at 4:47 in the morning. He was already awake. He'd been awake since 3, staring at the ceiling of his 1-bedroom apartment, doing math in his head. Rent was due in 6 days. Lily's school needed the field trip fee by Friday. The truck needed an oil change he couldn't afford. He grabbed the phone. "Mr. Reed, this is Patricia Langmore from Pinnacle Staffing. I apologize for the early call." "I'm up," Marcus said. "What do you have?" "Something just came in. It's unusual. The client specifically requested someone with no prior connection to their family, no prior employment in their circle. They want someone completely outside their world." "What kind of job?" Patricia paused. That pause told Marcus everything. "It's the Ashford family." Marcus sat up. "Ashford as in—" "Yes, Richard Ashford. The client is technically his daughter, Victoria. She needs a full-time caretaker for her daughter, Gemma. The child is 7. "Why is it unusual?" Another pause. "Mr. Reed, I'm going to be honest with you, because I respect your work. You've been the best placement we've had in 3 years. Every family you've worked with has given you perfect marks. That's why I'm calling you." "Patricia, why is it unusual?" 37. 37 what? 37 caretakers in 2 years. Nannies, au pairs, behavioral specialists. 1 child psychologist who lasted 11 days. 37 people have walked out, been fired, or simply stopped showing up. Marcus rubbed his face. "What's wrong with the kid?" "Nothing is wrong with the kid, Marcus. Everything is wrong with the mother." Marcus dropped Lily off at school at 7:15. She was 9, small for her age, with her mother's eyes. Dark brown, serious, always watching. Sarah had been gone for 4 years now. Cancer, fast and cruel. One day she was laughing in the kitchen. The next, she was in a hospital bed. And 6 weeks later, Marcus was standing in a cemetery, holding a 5-year-old's hand, trying to explain something he couldn't understand himself. "Dad," Lily said as she unbuckled her seatbelt, "you look worried." "I'm not worried." "You're doing the thing with your jaw." He forced himself to relax. "I have a job interview today. Big one." "How big?" "Could change things for us, Lil." She looked at him with those eyes. Sarah's eyes. "You'll get it," she said. "You always figure it out." She kissed his cheek and jumped out of the truck. Marcus watched her disappear through the school doors. Then he sat there for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel, telling himself that this time would be different. This time the money would be enough. This time he wouldn't have to choose between keeping his daughter fed and keeping his dignity. He drove across town to the Ashford estate. The gate alone probably cost more than his apartment building. A security guard checked his ID, called someone, waited, called someone else, waited again, then waved him through like he was entering a military installation. Marcus parked his truck between a black Bentley and a white Range Rover. He didn't care. He'd stopped being embarrassed about money a long time ago. Poverty wasn't a character flaw. He'd learned that the hard way. The front door opened before he knocked. A woman in a gray suit looked him up and down. "Marcus Reed?" "Yes, ma'am." "Follow me. Ms. Ashford is in the east sitting room." They walked through hallways that seemed to go on forever. Marcus kept his eyes forward. He wasn't here to be impressed. He was here to work. The woman in gray stopped at a set of double doors, knocked once, and opened them. Victoria Ashford was standing by the window with her back to him. She didn't turn around. "Sit down," she said. Marcus sat. Victoria turned. She was younger than he expected. Mid-30s, sharp features, blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She was dressed like she was going to war. Black blazer, black pants, heels that could puncture concrete. But it was her eyes that hit Marcus. Cold. Not angry. Cold. Like someone had reached inside her a long time ago and switched something off. She looked at the folder on the table between them. His file. Marcus Allen Reed, 42, widower. One daughter, age 9. Former high school football coach. Became a licensed child care provider 3 years ago. 6 placements, all successful. No complaints, no incidents. That's right. You coach football? Used to. Why'd you stop? My wife got sick. Coaching doesn't pay enough to cover what we needed. Victoria's expression didn't change. And childcare does? Childcare lets me set my own hours. Be there for my daughter. And yes, it pays better than you'd think when you're good at it. Are you good at it? I'm here, aren't I? Patricia doesn't send people to you unless they're the best she has. Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Not warmth, recognition. Like she'd identified something she hadn't expected. Mr. Reed, let me be very clear about what this position requires. My daughter Gemma is 7 years old. She is intelligent, perceptive, and she does not respond to conventional child care approaches. She has been assessed by 4 different psychologists. None of them agree on anything except that she is not the problem. Then what is the problem? Victoria stared at him. Excuse me? You said she's not the problem, so what is? 37 people don't walk away from a 7-year-old for no reason. The room went very still. Marcus could feel the woman in gray behind him tense up. He'd crossed a line. He knew it. He didn't care. Victoria set her jaw. The problem, Mr. Reed, is that most people are weak. They come in here with their credentials and their theories and their soft voices, and the moment things get difficult, they crumble. I need someone who won't crumble. I buried my wife and raised my daughter alone. I don't crumble. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Then she picked up the phone on the table. Bring Gemma in. The door opened 2 minutes later. Marcus expected a lot of things. A screaming child, a defiant child, a child who threw things or bit or cursed. He'd seen all of it in his years of work. What walked in was none of those things. Gemma Ashford was small, pale, with dark hair that fell past her shoulders. She walked in slowly, eyes on the floor, hands clasped in front of her. She moved like someone who'd learned very early that the less space you took up, the safer you were. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. He knew that walk. Lily had walked like that for the first year after Sarah died. Gemma, Victoria said. This is Mr. Reed. He's going to be taking care of you. Gemma didn't look up. For how long? The question hit the room like a brick. Victoria's jaw tightened. For as long as necessary. They all leave, Gemma said quietly. Can I go back to my room? Gemma, it's okay, Marcus said. Both Victoria and Gemma looked at him. He ignored Victoria and focused entirely on the child. Gemma, my name's Marcus. You don't have to like me. You don't have to talk to me. But I want you to know something." He leaned forward slightly, not towering over her, not getting in her space, just bringing himself closer to her level. "I'm not going anywhere." Gemma's eyes lifted for the first time. Dark brown, enormous, full of something that made Marcus want to put his fist through a wall, because a 7-year-old should never have that much resignation in her eyes. "That's what they all say," Gemma whispered. "I know," Marcus said. "And I know you don't believe me. That's okay. I'll just have to prove it." Gemma stared at him for 3 full seconds. Then she turned and walked out of the room without another word. Victoria waited until the door closed. "Well, she didn't scream at you. That's actually progress." "She doesn't scream because she's given up," Marcus said. "That's not progress. That's worse." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "I didn't hire you for your psychological analysis, Mr. Reed." "You haven't hired me at all yet." "Yes, I have. You start Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late." She stood, and the meeting was over. Marcus sat in his truck for 10 minutes before driving away. He called Patricia. "What the hell is going on in that house?" "Marcus, that kid isn't difficult. That kid is drowning. There's a difference." Patricia sighed. "I know. That's why I called you." "What happened to her? Where's the father?" "There is no father. Victoria used a donor. She wanted a child on her own terms. Everything in Victoria's life is on her own terms." "And Richard Ashford, the grandfather?" "Richard is complicated. He built that empire from nothing. Started with one hardware store in Ohio in 1972. Now it's a $3 billion company. He's old school, Marcus. Hard. Victoria is his only child, and from what I understand, their relationship is a war zone. Does he see Gemma? Rarely. Victoria controls access to Gemma like it's a government clearance. Richard has tried. Lawyers have been involved. It's a mess." Marcus stared at the Ashford gate in his rearview mirror. "How much is the position paying?" $12,000 a month. Marcus almost dropped the phone. $12,000! Plus housing on the property if you want it, full benefits, and the car allowance. It was more money than Marcus had made in the last year combined. It would solve everything. The rent, Lily's school, the truck, everything. "What's the catch, Patricia?" "The catch is that Victoria Ashford will try to break you. Not because she wants to, because it's the only thing she knows how to do." Marcus started Monday. He was there at 5:45 a.m. The house was already alive, staff moving through hallways, someone in the kitchen preparing breakfast, the woman in gray coordinating schedules on her phone. Victoria was leaving as Marcus arrived. She had a briefcase in one hand and a phone in the other. "Gemma's schedule is on the counter. She has tutoring at 9, piano at 11, Mandarin at 1, and riding at 3. Do not deviate from the schedule." "Good morning to you too," Marcus said. Victoria stopped. She turned and looked at him like he'd spoken in a foreign language. "Mr. Reed, I'm not paying you $12,000 a month for pleasantries. I'm paying you to follow instructions." "And I'll follow your instructions. But I'm also going to say good morning to you, because that's what normal people do." Victoria's mouth opened, then closed. Then she walked out the front door without another word. Marcus watched her go. Then he turned to the woman in gray, who was staring at him with wide eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. "Helen." "Helen, where's Gemma?" "Her room, 2nd floor, 3rd door on the left. She won't come out until you go get her. She never does." Marcus climbed the stairs. He found the door. White. No decorations, no name tag, nothing. He knocked. Silence. "Gemma, it's Marcus. Your mom left. It's just you and me today." More silence. "I'm not going to come in unless you want me to, but I want you to know I brought something." He waited. 20 seconds. 30. Then, so quiet he almost missed it. "What did you bring?" Marcus smiled. "Pancake mix. The real kind, not the fancy stuff. The kind that comes in a box and tastes like Saturday morning." Nothing for 10 seconds. Then the door cracked open. One dark eye peered out. "We have a chef," Gemma said. "I know, but I bet your chef doesn't make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs." The eye blinked. "Dinosaurs aren't real. The pancakes are. Want to find out?" The door opened another inch. Gemma's whole face appeared now. She was wearing pajamas with little stars on them. She looked impossibly small. "My mom says I'm supposed to have a nutritionally balanced breakfast. Oatmeal with flaxseed and fresh fruit." "Your mom's not here," Marcus said, "and dinosaurs are a food group." Something happened then that Marcus would later describe as the single most important moment of the entire experience. Gemma's mouth twitched. Not a smile, not yet, but the ghost of one, the shadow of a smile that had been buried so deep even she'd forgotten it was there. "Okay," she said, "but only if you make a T-Rex." They went to the kitchen. The chef, a tall, thin man named August, watched in horror as Marcus pulled out a box of Aunt Jemima and started mixing batter. "Sir," August said, "I have prepared a breakfast of—" "Take the morning off, August," Marcus said. "But Ms. Ashford's instructions." "I'll handle Ms. Ashford." August looked at Gemma. Gemma looked at Marcus. Then she climbed onto a stool of the kitchen island. The first time, August would later tell Helen, that the child had ever sat in the kitchen voluntarily. Marcus made pancakes. He made a T-Rex. It looked terrible. Lopsided, one arm bigger than the other, the tail falling apart. "That's the worst dinosaur I've ever seen," Gemma said. "It's a special species, the Lopsidosaurus. That's not a real dinosaur." "Neither is this pancake. Eat up." Gemma ate the entire thing. Then she ate another one. Then she drank a glass of milk, regular milk, not the organic almond whatever that was in the refrigerator. "Mr. Marcus?" "Just Marcus." "Marcus, are you really not going to leave?" He put down the spatula. He looked at her directly. "Gemma, I've got a daughter. Her name's Lily. She's 9. And 4 years ago, her mom died." Wednesday, she called because Marcus had taken Gemma to the backyard instead of her piano lesson. "She was crying," Marcus said. "She told me she hates piano. She's been telling everyone she hates piano for 2 years. She doesn't get to hate piano. Piano develops discipline and cognitive. She's 7. She gets to hate whatever she wants." Victoria showed up in person on Thursday. She walked into the playroom where Marcus and Gemma were building a fort out of couch cushions and stocked dead. Gemma froze. The light that had been slowly building in her eyes all week flickered out. "What is this?" Victoria asked. Fort Reed, Marcus said calmly. Gemma designed it. Load-bearing walls and everything. This room is for supervised educational activity. Building a fort is educational. Architecture, engineering, spatial reasoning. Mr. Reed. Victoria's voice dropped to something dangerous. My daughter's development is not a joke to me. It's not a joke to me either. That's why I'm building a fort with her, instead of forcing her through another schedule that makes her miserable. Victoria's face went white. You have no idea what I've sacrificed to give her every advantage. I know exactly what you've sacrificed, Marcus said quietly. Her. The room went dead silent. Gemma was pressed against the cushions, making herself as small as possible. Marcus saw it and hated himself for letting it get this far in front of her. Victoria's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists. For a moment, Marcus thought she was going to fire him on the spot. She had every right to. He'd overstepped. He'd said the one thing no one was supposed to say. But Victoria didn't fire him. She didn't say anything. She turned around and walked out. The front door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Gemma started crying. Not loud, dramatic crying. Silent tears that rolled down her cheeks without a sound. The kind of crying you learn when you've figured out that making noise only makes things worse. Marcus sat down next to her. He didn't touch her. He didn't tell her it was okay. Because it wasn't okay. I'm sorry, he said. That was my fault. I shouldn't have said that in front of you. Gemma wiped her eyes. Is she going to send you away? I don't know. She always sends them away. I told you, Gemma. I'm not going anywhere. Gemma looked at the ruined fort. Then she picked up a cushion and put it back in place. Then another one. Rebuilding. Marcus picked one up too. They rebuilt the fort together, and neither of them said another word for an hour. Friday night, Marcus got a call from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Reed, this is Richard Ashford. Marcus sat up straight. Mr. Ashford? I understand you've been causing quite a stir in my daughter's household. I suppose that depends on your definition of a stir. A low chuckle. Helen tells me Gemma ate pancakes, real pancakes, and laughed. Twice. 3 times, actually, but who's counting? I am, Richard said. His voice changed. Heavier, older, carrying something that sounded like decades of regret. Mr. Reed, my granddaughter has not laughed in that house in over a year. I know because I ask Helen every single week. Marcus was quiet. I also understand that my daughter is not making your job easy. Your daughter is making my job nearly impossible. Yes, she's good at that. She learned it from me, unfortunately. Richard paused. Mr. Reed, I'm going to tell you something that no one outside this family knows. And I'm telling you because Helen says you might be the first person in a very long time who actually gives a damn about that little girl. I'm listening. Victoria was not always like this. She was a bright, loving child. Her mother, my wife, Eleanor, died when Victoria was 6. I didn't handle it well. I buried myself in work. I built an empire and lost my daughter in the process. By the time I realized what I'd done, Victoria had built walls so high that God himself couldn't climb over them. Marcus closed his eyes. The parallels hit him like a truck. A child who lost a parent too young. A remaining parent who didn't know how to cope. Walls built out of grief, turning into prisons. She's doing to Gemma what I did to her, Richard said. And she can't see it. That's the cruelest part. She genuinely believes she's protecting that child. She is going to fire me, Mr. Ashford. No, she won't. How do you know? Because I've been watching my daughter push people away for 30 years, and not once, not a single time, has anyone pushed back the way you did. Helen told me what you said to her, about what she sacrificed. That was out of line. That was the truth. And the truth is the only thing that has ever had a chance of reaching my daughter. Richard's voice cracked slightly. Mr. Reed, I am an old man. I'm 78 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and I would give every penny of it to see my daughter whole again, to see my granddaughter smile without being afraid. Marcus gripped the phone. What are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to not give up. No matter what Victoria does, no matter what she says, don't give up on them. That's a big ask for $12,000 a month. Name your price. It's not about money, Mr. Ashford. I know it's not. That's why I'm asking you. Saturday morning, Marcus took Lily to the park. She was eating an ice cream cone and grilling him about his week like a tiny prosecutor. So this little girl, Gemma, she doesn't smile? She's starting to. And her mom is mean? Her mom is hurt. There's a difference. Lily considered this. Like how you were sad after Mom died? You weren't mean, but you were far away sometimes. Marcus stopped walking. His daughter had just summarized in one sentence what it had taken him years to understand about himself. Yeah, Lil. Like that. So who helped you come back? You did. Lily smiled. Then Gemma needs her person. Maybe it's you. Marcus looked at his daughter, 9 years old, missing her mother every day, and still somehow the wisest person he knew. Maybe, he said. On Monday morning, Marcus arrived at the Ashford estate at 5:45. The gate opened. Helen met him at the door. Her face was unreadable. Miss Ashford wants to see you in the sitting room. Marcus walked in. Victoria was sitting at the table. In front of her was a check. $50,000, made out to Marcus Reed. Severance, Victoria said. Generous, I think, for 1 week of employment. Marcus looked at the check. Then he looked at Victoria. Her face was a mask, perfect and impenetrable. But her hands were gripping the edge of the table so hard, her knuckles were white. She didn't want to do this. Marcus picked up the check. Victoria's shoulders dropped slightly. Relief, surrender, the familiar comfort of pushing someone away before they could get too close. Then Marcus tore the check in half. Victoria's mouth fell open. What are you? He tore it again, and again, until $50,000 was confetti on the mahogany table. I'm not for sale, Marcus said, and neither is your daughter. Victoria stood up. Her chair scraped back against the floor. You can't. I'm offering you. I know what you're offering me. You're offering me the same thing you offer everyone, money to make them go away. So you can prove to yourself that nobody cares, that everyone has a price, that Gemma will always end up alone, just like you. Stop! No. Victoria's composure cracked. Not all the way, but enough. A fracture, running through the middle of all that ice. You don't know anything about me, she whispered. I know you lost your mother when you were 6. I know your father chose his company over you. And I know you're so terrified of Gemma feeling what you felt that you've scheduled every minute of her life so she never has to sit still long enough to feel anything at all. Victoria was shaking now. Not with anger, with something much older than anger. Who told you about my mother? It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is that your daughter is down the hall right now, and she's waiting to see if I show up today. She's been let down 37 times. I am not going to be 38. He leaned forward. 5 words. Quiet. Certain. Let me help your daughter. Victoria Ashford, the woman who controlled a fortune, who commanded boardrooms, who had never in her adult life let anyone see her break, pressed her hand to her mouth and made a sound that wasn't quite a cry, but wasn't far from one. She sat back down. She didn't look at him. She stared at the pieces of the check scattered across the table. "She has tutoring at 9, Victoria finally said. Her voice was barely audible. Marcus nodded. "I know." He walked out of the room, up the stairs, and knocked on Gemma's door. "It's me," he said. "Your mom says I'm staying." The door opened. Gemma stood there in her star pajamas, her eyes wide and searching, and terrified of hoping. "Promise?" she asked. Marcus knelt down until they were eye to eye. "Promise." Gemma threw her arms around his neck, sudden, fierce, desperate, and held on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had never stopped shaking. And downstairs, sitting alone in the east sitting room, surrounded by the shredded remains of $50,000, Victoria Ashford put her head in her hands and wept for the first time in 29 years. Gemma didn't let go for almost a full minute. Marcus didn't rush her. He'd learned a long time ago that when a child holds on like that, you don't pull away first. You wait. You let them decide when they feel safe enough to let go. When she finally stepped back, she wiped her eyes quickly, like she was embarrassed. "Can we make pancakes?" she asked. "Every single morning if you want." "Dinosaurs?" "I'm working on a triceratops today. 3 horns. Very advanced." That ghost of a smile flickered again, brighter this time. Still not a full smile, but getting closer. They went to the kitchen. August saw them coming and immediately removed his apron. "I will prepare the coffee," he said, and retreated without being asked. He was learning. Marcus mixed the batter while Gemma sat on her stool. She was quiet for a while, watching him work. Then she said something that stopped him cold. "She cried." Marcus kept his hands moving, kept his voice steady. "Who cried?" "My mom. I heard her. After you went in to talk to her. She was crying." Marcus poured batter onto the griddle. "How does that make you feel?" "Scared." "Why scared?" "Because she never cries. If she's crying, something is really wrong, or really different, and different is scary." Marcus flipped the pancake. "You know what, Gemma? Different can be scary, but different can also be the thing that saves you. My daughter Lily told me something once. She said that after her mom died, I was far away. Not mean, just far away. And she was right. I was so scared of feeling the pain that I stopped feeling everything. I went far away. You know what brought me back? Lily? Lily. She just kept showing up, kept talking to me, kept dragging me back, even when I didn't want to come back." Gemma pulled at the sleeve of her pajamas. "I don't think anyone can drag my mom back." "Maybe not, but maybe she doesn't need to be dragged. Maybe she just needs to know it's safe to come back on her own." Gemma thought about this. "That's a lot of maybes." "Yeah," Marcus said. "It is." He put the pancake on her plate. It looked like a triceratops if you squinted hard and used your imagination. "That's a blob," Gemma said. "It's abstract. Eat your art." She ate it, and for the first time since he'd met her, Gemma laughed. Not the ghost of a laugh, not a twitch, a real laugh, high and surprised, like it had escaped before she could catch it. Marcus turned away so she wouldn't see his eyes. The second week was different. Victoria didn't call. Not on Tuesday, not on Wednesday, not once. The schedule was still on the counter every morning, printed on expensive paper, every minute accounted for. But Victoria stopped enforcing it. She left earlier, came home later, avoided Marcus entirely. He knew what she was doing. She was building distance, regrouping. The crack he'd put in her armor had frightened her, and she was working overtime to seal it back up. On Thursday of the second week, Helen found Marcus in the kitchen after Gemma had gone to bed. "She's not eating," Helen said. "Gemma's eating fine. She had 2 helpings of—" "Not Gemma, Victoria." Marcus stopped wiping the counter. "What do you mean she's not eating?" "She's barely slept since Monday. She's in her office until 2, 3 in the morning. She canceled her Thursday lunch, which she has never done in the 4 years I've worked here. And today I found a full plate of food in her trash can, untouched." "Helen, I'm here for Gemma." "I know that, but you can't save the daughter if the mother falls apart. They're connected, Marcus. You know that." He did know that. He'd known it since the moment he walked into that house. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to talk to her." "She doesn't want to talk to me." "She doesn't want to talk to anyone. That's the problem. That's been the problem for 30 years. Marcus threw the rag into the sink. "I'm a childcare provider, Helen, not a therapist." "No, you're the first person who's told her the truth and didn't leave afterward. That makes you something else entirely." He found Victoria in her office at 10 p.m. The door was open. She was sitting behind a desk covered in papers, staring at her laptop screen. But Marcus could tell she wasn't reading. Her eyes weren't moving. He knocked on the doorframe. She didn't look up. "It's late, Mr. Reed. Gemma's been asleep for 2 hours." "I know. I'm not here about Gemma." Now she looked up. "Then what are you here about?" "Helen says you're not eating." Victoria's expression hardened. "Helen needs to mind her own business." "Helen has worked for you for 4 years. She cares about you." "Helen is paid to manage my household, not to care about me." "People can do both." Victoria pushed back from her desk. "Mr. Reed, I am going to say this once, and I need you to hear it. What happened on Monday, the check, the things you said, that was a mistake. My mistake. I allowed an emotional reaction to cloud my judgment. It won't happen again." "You mean the crying?" Her face flinched like he'd slapped her. "I mean all of it." "Victoria, when's the last time you ate a full meal?" "That's not your concern." "When's the last time you slept more than 3 hours?" "Mr. Reed, when's the last time someone asked you how you were doing and you told them the truth?" Victoria stood up. She was trembling, but her voice was iron. "You are here for my daughter. That is your job. That is the beginning and the end of your role in this house. Whatever you think you saw on Monday, whatever you think you understand about me, you are wrong. I am fine. I have always been fine. I will continue to be fine." "You're not fine, and you haven't been fine in a very long time. And the fact that you can say that with a straight face is the thing that scares me the most." Victoria's hands gripped the edge of her desk. "Get out of my office." "Okay," Marcus said. He didn't argue. He didn't push. He'd learned the difference between pushing someone toward the edge and pushing them over it. "But I'm leaving a plate of food outside your door. You don't have to eat it. You don't have to acknowledge it. But it'll be there." He turned and walked out. Behind him, he heard Victoria sit back down. He heard the creak of her chair. And then he heard something so quiet he almost missed it. A single, shuddering breath. The kind you take when you've been holding everything in for so long that your body physically can't hold it anymore. Marcus went to the kitchen, made a plate. Simple, nothing fancy, a sandwich and some fruit, and a glass of water, and left it outside her office door. In the morning, the plate was empty. He didn't mention it. He just made another plate the next night. And the next. Every night that week, he left a plate outside Victoria's office door at 10 p.m. Every morning, the plate was empty. Neither of them said a word about it. On Friday, Gemma noticed. "Why are you making 2 sandwiches?" she asked. She was sitting at the kitchen island, drawing. She'd started drawing that week. Marcus had bought her a sketch pad and colored pencils. Not on the schedule, not part of any developmental plan. Just because she'd mentioned once that she'd like to draw, but didn't have anything to draw with. "One's for me," Marcus said. "You already ate." "I'm a growing boy." "You're 42. "Still growing. Mentally." Gemma looked at him with those dark, knowing eyes. "It's for my mom, isn't it?" Marcus stopped making the sandwich. There was no point lying to this kid. She saw everything. "Yeah," he said. "It's for your mom." "She won't eat with us, but she eats what you leave her?" "Seems that way." Gemma went back to her drawing. "She used to eat with me. When I was really little, like 4, I remember she would sit at the big table, and I would sit next to her, and we would eat together. She would cut my food up into tiny pieces. What happened? I don't know. She just stopped. One day she was there, and then she wasn't. She was always working or on the phone or going somewhere, and then the nannies started coming." "Do you miss her?" Gemma's pencil stopped moving. "You can't miss someone who's right there. That doesn't make sense." "Sure it does. You can miss someone who's standing right next to you, if they're not really there." Gemma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I want to make the sandwich." "What?" "For my mom. I want to make it." Marcus handed her the bread. Gemma made the sandwich carefully, deliberately. She cut it diagonal, not straight across. She put it on the plate and then paused. "She likes grapes," Gemma said. "Not the red ones, the green ones." Marcus found green grapes in the refrigerator. Gemma placed them on the plate in a neat little cluster next to the sandwich. Then she looked at Marcus. "Can I bring it to her?" Marcus felt his chest tighten. "Are you sure?" "No, but you said different can be the thing that saves you. So maybe." "Yeah," Marcus said. "Maybe." Gemma carried the plate down the hall to Victoria's office. Marcus didn't follow her. He stayed in the kitchen, gripping the counter, listening. He heard Gemma knock. He heard the office door open. He heard Victoria's voice, surprised, off balance. "Gemma, what are you doing up?" "I made you a sandwich." Silence. A long, terrible silence. "You made me a sandwich?" "With green grapes, because you like the green ones." More silence. Marcus realized he was holding his breath. "Gemma, you should be in bed. It's almost... Will you eat it? Please?" Victoria's voice, when it came again, sounded like it was being dragged over broken glass. "Of course I'll eat it, sweetheart. Can I sit with you while you eat it?" Nothing. Marcus strained to hear. 5 seconds. 10. "Yes," Victoria whispered. "You can sit with me." Marcus heard the office door close. He stood in the kitchen, alone, in the dark, and pressed his hand over his eyes. The 3rd week, Richard Ashford called again. "She's eating," Richard said. "Helen told me." "She's eating," Marcus confirmed. "And Gemma made her a sandwich." "Gemma made her a sandwich." Richard was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Reed, I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm." That's never a good way to start a sentence. "Victoria's lawyer called my lawyer this morning. She's filing for a restraining order. Against me." Marcus sat down. "What?" "She wants me legally barred from the property, from Gemma, from any contact." "Why now? What changed?" "I think she knows I called you. I think she figured out that someone told you about Eleanor, about her mother, and Victoria has always treated information about her childhood as classified. If she thinks I'm going behind her back, using you as some kind of, "I'm not your agent, Richard. I told you that." I know you're not. But Victoria doesn't see it that way. In her mind, everyone has an agenda. Everyone is trying to get something. The idea that someone might simply care. She can't compute it. She never could. Marcus rubbed his temple. If she finds out you and I have been talking, she'll fire me. And this time, no amount of torn checks is going to stop her. I know. That's why I'm calling to tell you that this is our last conversation. I won't call again. I won't contact Helen. I'm going to step back completely. Richard, no, listen to me. I have spent 30 years trying to fix what I broke with my daughter. Every attempt has made it worse. Every lawyer, every phone call, every grand gesture. It all just confirms what she already believes. That I'm trying to control her. That I want something from her. The old man's voice cracked. I don't want anything from her, Marcus. I just want her to be okay. And for the first time in 30 years, someone is in that house who might actually make that happen. I'm not going to ruin it by being selfish. You're her father. I'm a stranger who shares her DNA. There's a difference. I gave up the right to call myself her father a long time ago. Richard took a breath. Take care of them. Both of them. That's all I'll ever ask. The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. The weight of what he'd walked into was becoming clearer every day. This wasn't a job. This was a family, torn into pieces. And somehow, he'd ended up standing in the middle of the wreckage, holding fragments that didn't fit together, trying to figure out which ones went where. Monday morning, Victoria was waiting for him at the front door. She was holding a manila envelope. "We need to talk," she said. Marcus followed her inside. They stood in the foyer. Victoria handed him the envelope. "What's this?" "A revised contract. New terms. Read it." Marcus opened it. The first page was a non-disclosure agreement. The second was a list of rules. No contact with Richard Ashford. No discussion of family history with Gemma. No deviation from the approved schedule without written authorization. No communication with any member of the Ashford family outside of Victoria herself. Violation of any clause would result in immediate termination and legal action. Marcus read every word. Then he looked at Victoria. "You're scared," he said. "I'm protecting my daughter." "From what? From her grandfather? From me? From a sandwich?" Victoria's jaw tightened. "My father is a manipulative man who has spent my entire life trying to control every aspect of—" "Your father is a 78-year-old man who asks Helen every week if his granddaughter laughed." Victoria went pale. "He talks to Helen?" "He talked to Helen." Past tense. "He called me this weekend to tell me he's stepping back completely. No more calls, no more contact. He's done." "Good." "It's not good, Victoria. It's an old man giving up. Because every time he reaches out to his daughter, she builds the wall higher." Victoria snatched the envelope back. "You didn't sign it." "No." "Then you're in breach of your original contract, which requires compliance with all revised—" "Fire me then." Victoria stared at him. "What?" "You heard me. Fire me, right now. Call Patricia, tell her it didn't work out. Write another check. Go ahead. You've done it 37 times. What's one more?" "This is not— You can't just—" "But you should know something first, before you do it. Gemma sat at the kitchen island yesterday and told me that making you that sandwich was the best thing she's done in her whole life. Those were her exact words. 7 years old, and bringing her mother a sandwich is the peak of her existence. That's what you've given her, Victoria. A life so empty that a sandwich feels like a miracle." Victoria's face crumbled. It happened fast, like a building collapsing. 1 second the structure was there, and the next it was falling, everything coming down at once. "Stop it!" she gasped. "Stop doing this to me!" "Doing what? Telling you the truth?" "Making me feel." The words tore out of her like they'd been locked in a cage. "I spent my entire life learning how not to feel, and you walk in here with your pancakes and your promises and your stupid torn-up check, and you're ruining everything. I had it under control. Everything was under control." Nothing was under control. Everything was just numb. And numb isn't the same as control, Victoria. Numb is just a slower way of dying. She backed against the wall. Her breathing was ragged. The manila envelope fell from her hands and scattered across the floor. "My mother died when I was 6, she said, and her voice sounded like a child's. Not a CEO's, not a billionaire's daughter's, a child's. And my father looked at me like I was a reminder of everything he'd lost. So I learned to disappear. I learned to be perfect. I learned to need nothing from anyone, ever. And when I had Gemma, I swore she would never feel what I felt. She would never be helpless. She would never be weak. Being loved isn't weak, Victoria. Being loved is the most dangerous thing in the world, because it can be taken away. Just like that." She snapped her fingers. "In one phone call, one diagnosis. One morning you wake up and the person who was supposed to be there forever is gone. And you're 6 years old, standing in a kitchen, waiting for someone who is never coming home." Marcus took a step toward her. "I know. You don't know. My wife died 4 years ago. My daughter was 5. I stood in that kitchen. I waited for someone who wasn't coming home. I know, Victoria. Believe me, I know." Victoria looked at him. Really looked at him. Not with cold eyes. Not with armor. Not with 30 years of defense mechanisms and control strategies and emotional fortification. She looked at him the way a drowning person looks at a hand reaching into the water. "How did you survive it?" she whispered. "I let someone help me." Victoria slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor. The most powerful woman Marcus had ever met, sitting on the marble floor of her own foyer, surrounded by the scattered pages of a contract designed to keep the entire world at arm's length. Marcus sat down across from her, on the floor. 2 adults, sitting on the floor of a mansion at 7 in the morning, both of them broken in the same places, both of them held together by the same stubborn refusal to let it beat them. "I don't know how to do this," Victoria said. "Do what?" "Any of it. Being a mother, being a person, feeling things without being destroyed by them. Nobody knows how to do it. We all just show up and try not to mess it up too badly. I've messed it up. With Gemma, with my father, with everything." "Yeah, you have." Victoria looked at him, startled by the honesty. "But that's the thing about messing up," Marcus said. "You get to try again. Tomorrow morning, and the morning after that. You just keep showing up." Victoria wiped her face with the back of her hand. Mascara smeared across her wrist. She looked at it like she'd never seen her own tears before. "Gemma likes the dinosaur pancakes," she said quietly. "They're terrible. She says the Triceratops was the worst one. She's not wrong." Victoria almost smiled. Not quite, but close. Closer than Marcus had ever seen. "I'm not signing that contract," he said. "I know. And I'm not going to stop telling you the truth." "I know that too. And tomorrow morning, I'm making pancakes. If you want to come down and eat with your daughter, the kitchen's open at 6:30. Victoria pressed her lips together. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She picked herself up off the floor, gathered the scattered pages of the contract, and walked to her office without another word. Marcus let himself out and drove home. When he picked up Lily from school that afternoon, she took one look at his face and said, "Hard day?" "Complicated day." "Good complicated or bad complicated?" Marcus thought about Victoria sitting on the floor, about Gemma laughing, about Richard Ashford hanging up the phone for the last time, about a 7-year-old girl making a sandwich for a mother who'd forgotten how to be one. "I don't know yet, Lil. Ask me tomorrow." At 6:32 the next morning, Marcus was in the Ashford kitchen making pancake batter when he heard footsteps. Not Gemma's. Gemma's footsteps were light, hesitant. These were different, slower, deliberate. Like every step was a decision. Victoria appeared in the kitchen doorway. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. No blazer, no heels, no armor. Her hair was down, falling around her shoulders. She looked 10 years younger and 10 years more terrified. "I don't know what kind of pancakes I like," she said. "I haven't had pancakes since I was 5. Marcus poured batter onto the griddle. "Then I guess we'll have to figure it out." Victoria sat down at the kitchen island, the same stool Gemma always used. She folded her hands in her lap and stared at the counter like it was the most foreign landscape she'd ever encountered. 5 minutes later, Gemma came padding down the stairs. She stopped at the kitchen entrance. Her eyes went to Marcus, then to Victoria, then back to Marcus. Her face carried the expression of a child who has just witnessed something impossible, something she'd stopped believing could ever happen. "Mom?" Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "Good morning, sweetheart." Gemma didn't move. She stood there, frozen, like if she took a step, the whole thing would shatter and she'd wake up. Marcus put a plate of pancakes on the counter. A lopsided dinosaur, slightly burned on one side. He didn't say anything. He just stepped back and let the moment belong to them. Gemma walked to the island. She climbed onto the stool next to Victoria. Their shoulders were almost touching. Almost. "Marcus makes terrible pancakes," Gemma said. "I heard," Victoria said. "You should try the Triceratops. It's the worst one." "Then that's the one I want." Marcus made a Triceratops. It looked like a pancake that had been in a car accident. He put it on Victoria's plate. Victoria picked up a fork. Her hand was shaking. She cut a piece, put it in her mouth, and chewed. "That's awful," she said. "Told you," Gemma said. And then something happened that Marcus would carry with him for the rest of his life. Victoria laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a controlled laugh, not the calculated response of a woman who'd spent decades performing every human interaction. A real laugh, messy and surprised and almost painful, like a muscle being used for the first time in years. Gemma stared at her mother. Then she started laughing too. And Marcus turned to the griddle so neither of them would see that the man who never crumbled was falling apart at the seams. Breakfast became a ritual. Every morning at 6:30, Marcus made pancakes. Every morning, Gemma came down in her star pajamas. And every morning, Victoria sat at the island in her jeans and sweater, eating terrible dinosaur shapes and pretending she wasn't terrified. It lasted 9 days. On the 10th day, Victoria came down in her blazer. Her hair was pulled back. Her heels were on. She poured coffee, checked her phone, and said, "Gemma has a new tutor starting today, Dr. Patel. She specializes in accelerated learning for gifted children. She'll be here at 8. Gemma's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She looked at Marcus. Marcus kept his face neutral. "What happened to the regular schedule?" he asked. "I've revised it. Gemma is behind in 3 subject areas. Dr. Patel will address the gaps." "She's 7, Victoria. She's not behind in anything." "She's behind where she should be. I've reviewed the benchmarks." "Whose benchmarks?" Victoria's jaw tightened. The armor was back. All of it. Every plate, every rivet, locked into place like the last 9 mornings had never happened. "This isn't a discussion, Mr. Reed." Mr. Reed, not Marcus. They were back to that. Gemma put her fork down. She slid off her stool quietly, the way she always did when things got tense. Shrinking, disappearing, making herself small enough to slip through the cracks. "Gemma, finish your breakfast," Victoria said. "I'm not hungry. You need to eat before Dr. Patel arrives." "I said I'm not hungry." Gemma's voice was flat, dead. The same voice she'd used the first day Marcus met her. All the brightness from the past 2 weeks, gone. Like someone had flipped a switch. Victoria stiffened. "Gemma Ann Ashford, sit down and eat your breakfast." "Let her go," Marcus said. "Excuse me?" "She's not hungry. Forcing her to eat isn't going to help anyone." Victoria turned on him with a look that could have stripped paint. "Do not tell me how to parent my child." "Then stop parenting her like she's a project with a deadline." Gemma was already gone. Marcus heard her footsteps on the stairs, quick and light, and then the distant sound of her bedroom door closing. Not slamming. Gemma never slammed. She just closed herself away, quiet as a ghost. Victoria grabbed her briefcase. "Dr. Patel will be here at 8. Make sure Gemma is ready." She walked out, the front door closed. Not a slam either. Controlled. Everything Victoria did was controlled. Even her exits. Marcus stood in the kitchen alone, surrounded by cold pancakes and the wreckage of 9 good mornings. He went upstairs, knocked on Gemma's door. "Go away." "It's me." "I know. Go away." Marcus sat down on the floor outside her door. He didn't say anything. He just sat there. 3 minutes passed. 5. 7. "Are you still there?" Gemma's voice came through the door, muffled. "Yep." "Why?" "Because sitting outside your door is better than sitting downstairs with a bunch of cold pancakes." Silence. Then, "She's never going to change, is she?" It wasn't a question. It was a statement, delivered with the certainty of a child who had been through this cycle before. Hope, retreat. Hope, retreat. The cruelest pattern there is. Marcus leaned his head against the wall. "Gemma, can I tell you something about people?" "I guess." Changing is the hardest thing a person can do. It's harder than climbing a mountain. It's harder than running a marathon. Because when you change, you have to look at all the stuff you've been hiding from, and that stuff is ugly, and it hurts, and most people would rather do anything, than face it. "So she's never going to change." I didn't say that. I said it's hard. Hard doesn't mean impossible. It just means it takes time. And setbacks. Lots of setbacks. How many setbacks? As many as it takes. The door cracked open. Gemma's face appeared. Her eyes were red but dry. She'd trained herself not to cry. That broke Marcus more than the tears would have. "I don't want to see Dr. Patel," she said. "I know. I don't want to do accelerated learning. I want to draw, and make pancakes, and build forts." "I know that too." "Can you make her understand that?" Marcus looked at this 7-year-old girl who carried more emotional weight than most adults he'd ever met. "I'm going to try, Gemma. That's the best I can give you." "Trying isn't the same as doing." "No, but it's where doing starts." Dr. Patel arrived at 8 sharp. She was a small woman, with kind eyes and a briefcase full of assessment materials. Marcus could tell immediately that she was good at her job and genuinely cared about children. That almost made it worse. The problem wasn't Dr. Patel. The problem was that Victoria was stacking Gemma's life so full of improvement that there was no room left for the child to breathe. Marcus brought Gemma down. She sat across from Dr. Patel at the dining room table, with the posture of a prisoner being processed. "Hello, Gemma. I'm Dr. Patel. I'm going to be working with you on some really fun learning activities." Gemma didn't respond. "Can you tell me what subjects you enjoy?" Nothing. Dr. Patel looked at Marcus. Marcus shook his head slightly. "Not now. Don't push." "That's okay," Dr. Patel said gently. "We don't have to talk about school. What do you like to do for fun?" "I draw," Gemma said, barely above a whisper. "Oh, wonderful. What do you draw?" "Dinosaurs mostly, and pancakes." Dr. Patel smiled. "Those are unique subjects. I'd love to see your drawing sometime." Gemma glanced at Marcus. He nodded. She looked back at Dr. Patel. "Okay." They got through the session. Dr. Patel was patient and flexible, and by the end, Gemma was at least responding in full sentences. After Dr. Patel left, she pulled Marcus aside. "That child is not behind in anything," Dr. Patel said. "She tested in the 97th percentile across the board. Her reading comprehension is at a 5th grade level. She's extraordinary." "I know." "Then why am I here?" "Because her mother needs to feel like she's doing something, controlling something. It's the only way she knows how to love." Dr. Patel looked at him for a long time. "You're not a typical caretaker, are you?" "I'm not a typical anything." "Keep doing what you're doing, Marcus, whatever it is. That child is starving, and it's not for education." That evening, Marcus called Patricia. "I need a favor. The last time you said that, I sent you to the Ashfords. What now?" "I need you to find out what happened to Victoria's mother. Not the public version, the real version." Patricia was quiet. "Why?" "Because there's something Victoria is carrying that goes beyond grief. The way she reacts, the way she controls everything, the way she physically cannot allow herself to be vulnerable for more than a few days before slamming the door shut. That's not just a woman who lost her mother. That's a woman who experienced something specific, something she's never dealt with." "Marcus, I'm a staffing agent, not a private investigator." "You know people. You've worked with the Ashfords for years. Someone knows something." Patricia sighed. "There is one person. Victoria's mother's sister. Eleanor's twin. Her name is Margaret. She lives in Vermont. She and Victoria haven't spoken in over 20 years. Why not?" "I don't know the details, but Margaret reached out to our agency once, about 5 years ago. She wanted to know if Gemma was okay. She'd heard about the revolving door of caretakers. She was worried." "Give me her number." "Marcus, if Victoria finds out, I know. Give me her number anyway." He called Margaret that night, after Lily was asleep. "Hello?" The voice was older, warm, cautious. "Ms. Ashford? My name is Marcus Reed. I'm the caretaker for your great niece, Gemma." A sharp intake of breath. "Is she all right? Is Gemma all right?" "She's okay. She's doing better, actually. But I'm calling about Victoria." Silence. "Ms. Ashford?" "Margaret. Call me Margaret." Another pause. "You're calling because you want to understand her." "Yes." "Most people don't bother trying to understand Victoria. They just endure her or run from her." "I'm not most people." Margaret laughed softly. It sounded like Eleanor must have sounded, or at least like the echo of a woman Marcus had never met. "No, I imagine you're not. Patricia told me about you once. Said you were different." "Margaret, what happened to Victoria? I know Eleanor died when she was 6. I know Richard withdrew. But there's something else, isn't there?" The line was quiet for so long, Marcus thought he'd lost the connection. "Eleanor didn't just die," Margaret said finally. She died in the house, in front of Victoria. Marcus closed his eyes. It was a brain aneurysm. Instant. One moment Eleanor was standing in the kitchen making dinner, and the next she was on the floor. Victoria was sitting at the kitchen table doing a coloring book. She watched her mother collapse. She ran to her. She shook her. She screamed for help. But Richard was at work, and the housekeeper had gone home early. How long was she alone with her? 45 minutes. A 6-year-old girl, alone with her dead mother on the kitchen floor for 45 minutes until Richard came home. Marcus pressed his fist against his forehead. 45 minutes. A child. Alone. When Richard found them, Victoria was sitting on the floor next to Eleanor, holding her hand. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was just sitting there, perfectly still, holding her mother's hand. And Richard told me later. He told me this at the funeral, and I have never forgotten it. He said that when he walked in, Victoria looked up at him and said, "I tried to wake her up, but she won't wake up." Calm. Perfectly calm. 6 years old. She shut down, Marcus said. She shut down, and she has never turned back on. Not fully. Richard didn't know how to handle it. He was devastated, and he dealt with his devastation the way men of his generation dealt with everything. He worked. He sent Victoria to boarding school when she was 8. She excelled, of course. She excelled at everything, because excelling was the only way to feel anything resembling control. And you? What happened between you and Victoria? Margaret's voice thinned. I tried. When Victoria was 12, I asked Richard to let her spend summers with me. He agreed. She came to Vermont for 3 summers, and for a while I thought maybe I could reach her. She was so bright, Marcus, so funny when she let her guard down. She used to make up stories about the animals on my farm. She'd give them names and personalities and whole life histories. What went wrong? The last summer, she was 14. I found her diary. I shouldn't have read it, but I was worried about her. She was having nightmares, every night. She'd wake up screaming and then pretend it hadn't happened. What was in the diary? Pages and pages of the same sentence, over and over. I should have saved her. I should have saved her. I should have saved her. Hundreds of times, in perfect handwriting. Marcus felt sick. I confronted her about it. I told her it wasn't her fault, that she was 6 years old, that there was nothing she could have done. And she looked at me, this 14-year-old girl, and she said, if I had been smarter, I would have known to call 911. If I had been better, I would have known what to do. And I said, Victoria, you were a child. And she said, I will never be that helpless again. And that's why she controls everything. That's why she controls everything. Every schedule, every outcome, every person who comes near her daughter. Because in Victoria's mind, if she controls everything, nothing bad can happen. No one will die on the kitchen floor while she sits there, helpless, unable to do anything. Marcus sat in the dark for a long time after the call ended. Everything made sense now. The schedules, the 37 caretakers, the constant surveillance, the inability to let Gemma just be a child. a tall one with yellow hair, a small one with dark hair, and a medium one with brown hair. Underneath, in careful 7-year-old handwriting, "My family." Victoria was holding the drawing with both hands. Her thumbs were trembling. "She left this on my desk," Victoria said. Her voice was hollow. "She must have put it there last night after I went to sleep." Marcus looked at the drawing. 3 figures. Gemma had drawn Victoria and Marcus and herself. A family. "She drew you with a smile," Marcus said quietly. Victoria touched the yellow-haired figure with her fingertip. "I don't smile." "She drew what she hopes for." Victoria set the drawing down carefully, like it was made of glass. She turned to Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Not the crack from the foyer, not the brief thaw of the pancake mornings. Something deeper, something that looked like the beginning of surrender, not to Marcus, not to anyone, but to the truth she'd been running from for 29 years. "I was in the kitchen when my mother died," she said. Marcus didn't move, didn't react. He let the words exist in the air between them, without rushing to fill the silence. "I was coloring. She was making chicken soup. And then she made a sound, this small sound like a sigh, and she was on the floor. And I thought she was playing. For a few seconds, I actually thought she was playing a game. I laughed. I said, 'Mommy, get up!' And she didn't get up." Victoria's voice was steady, the practiced steadiness of someone who had rehearsed these words in her own mind 10,000 times, but never spoken them aloud. "I sat with her for 45 minutes. I held her hand. It got cold. Hands aren't supposed to get cold like that. I didn't know that then. I just thought she was cold. So I got a blanket from the couch and put it over her, and I sat back down and held her hand through the blanket." "Victoria, and when my father came home, I told him she wouldn't wake up. And he screamed. He fell on his knees and he screamed, and it was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. And then the house was full of people, paramedics and neighbors and someone from his office, and everyone was crying and shouting, and no one looked at me. No one talked to me. No one told me what was happening. They just took her away, and the kitchen was empty, and the soup was still in the stove." She stopped. Her hands were flat on the counter, pressing down hard, like she was trying to anchor herself to something solid. "I have never told anyone that," she said. "Not a therapist, not my father, not anyone." "Why are you telling me?" Victoria looked at Gemma's drawing. The 3 stick figures. The word family. "Because my daughter drew me with a smile. And I don't know how to become the person in that picture. But I think if I don't try, I'm going to lose her the same way my father lost me. And I cannot." Her voice broke. The first real break, not a crack, not a fracture, but a full collapse of the wall she'd spent a lifetime building. "I cannot let that happen. I would rather die than let that happen to her." Marcus reached across the counter and put his hand over hers. She flinched. He didn't pull away. He just held it there, steady and warm, and waited. "You're not going to lose her," he said. "How do you know?" "Because you're standing in this kitchen at 6:30 in the morning, telling me the worst thing that ever happened to you. That takes more courage than anything I've ever seen. And a woman with that kind of courage doesn't lose. She fights." Victoria stared at his hand on hers. She didn't pull away. "I don't know how to fight for this," she whispered. "I know how to fight in boardrooms. I know how to fight lawyers and competitors and anyone who tries to take what's mine. But I don't know how to fight for my daughter's heart. I don't know how to fight for something you can't control." "That's the whole point, Victoria. You can't control it. Love isn't a contract. It's not a schedule. You can't optimize it or benchmark it. You just have to show up and be there, and let it be messy and imperfect and terrifying. Terrifying, she repeated. The most terrifying thing in the world. More terrifying than sitting on a kitchen floor holding your mother's hand? Different kind of terrifying, but yeah, because this time you're choosing it. You're walking into it with your eyes open. Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then she pulled her hand away from his, gently, not a rejection, just a woman who needed to stand on her own 2 feet for the next thing she was going to say. Cancel Dr. Patel. What? Cancel the accelerated learning program. Cancel all of it. The Mandarin, the writing lessons, the piano. Victoria, you don't have to cancel everything. Some structure is, I want to start over. From scratch. I want to ask my daughter what she wants. I've never done that, Marcus. In 7 years, I have never once asked Gemma what she wants. I've told her. I've decided for her. I've scheduled her and assessed her and benchmarked her, and I have never, not once, sat down and said, "What do you want, Gemma?" Marcus felt something shift in the room. Not the temperature, not the light. Something bigger. The feeling you get when a story turns a corner, and you realize that everything before was just the prologue. Then let's go ask her, he said. They went upstairs together. Victoria knocked on Gemma's door. Her knock was different than Marcus's. Sharper, more tentative, like she was asking permission to enter a space she'd never earned the right to occupy. "Gemma? It's Mom." The door opened slowly. Gemma looked at Victoria, then at Marcus, then back at Victoria. Her expression was wary, guarded, a child bracing for the next disappointment. "I want to ask you something," Victoria said. "And I want you to tell me the truth, even if you think I won't like the answer. Okay?" Gemma nodded. Victoria knelt down. Her knees hit the floor, and Marcus could see what it cost her. Not physically, but emotionally. A woman who commanded empires, kneeling before a 7-year-old. Meeting her where she was. "What do you want, Gemma? Not what I want. Not what the tutors want. Not what anyone else wants. What do you want?" Gemma looked at her mother for a long time. Her eyes searched Victoria's face, looking for the trap, looking for the angle, looking for the moment when this would all snap back to schedules and assessments and disappointment. She didn't find it. "I want to eat breakfast with you," Gemma said. "Every morning, not just sometimes." "Okay." "And I want to draw. Every day." "Okay." "And I want Marcus to stay." "He's staying." "And I want—" Gemma stopped. Her lip quivered. She looked at the floor. "What, sweetheart? You can tell me." "I want you to read to me at night, like you used to, before the nannies." Victoria's composure shattered for the second time that morning. She pulled Gemma into her arms so fast that the child gasped. She held her daughter against her chest and pressed her face into Gemma's hair and said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." Gemma's arms came up slowly, wrapping around her mother's neck, holding on the same way she'd held on to Marcus that first morning, fierce and desperate and afraid to believe. "It's okay, Mom." "It's not okay. But it's going to be. I promise you, it's going to be." Marcus stepped back. He walked down the hallway and down the stairs and into the kitchen. He stood at the counter and gripped the edge and breathed. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "How's the complicated thing going?" He typed back, "Getting less complicated." "That means it's getting more complicated, doesn't it?" He laughed, out loud, alone in the kitchen of a mansion that had started to feel less like a fortress and more like a place where broken things were slowly, painfully, learning how to mend. "Yeah, Lil, it does." Victoria kept her promise. She read to Gemma every night for 3 straight months. She started with picture books, because that's where they'd left off when Gemma was 4, and neither of them acknowledged that a 7-year-old didn't need picture books. It wasn't about the books. It was about the ritual. About Victoria sitting on the edge of Gemma's bed with her shoes off and her voice soft, turning pages, being present. Some nights Gemma fell asleep before the story ended. Some nights Victoria did. Marcus would find them in the morning tangled together, the book fallen to the floor, and he'd close the door quietly and let them have it. It wasn't perfect. Victoria still reached for control the way a drowning person reaches for anything solid. There were setbacks. There were mornings when she came downstairs in her blazer with that hard look in her eyes, and Marcus could see the walls rebuilding themselves, brick by brick. There were arguments. There were doors closed too hard and silences that lasted hours. But she kept showing up. Every morning, every night. And slowly, painfully, something in that house began to change. 4 months into Marcus's time at the Ashford estate, Lily asked him a question he'd been avoiding. "Dad, when's this job going to be done?" They were in his apartment, Saturday afternoon. Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table, and Marcus was paying bills, actually paying them, on time, for the first time in years. The Ashford salary had changed everything. New tires on the truck. Lily's field trip fees covered through the end of the year. A savings account with actual money in it. "I don't know, Lil. Because you've been there every day for 4 months. You leave before I wake up, and sometimes you don't get home until after dinner. I know Mrs. Patterson watches me, and she's fine, but..." "But what?" Lily put her pencil down. "But I miss you." The words hit Marcus in a place he wasn't prepared for. He'd been so focused on Gemma, on Victoria, on the Ashford wreckage, that he'd started doing the exact thing he'd warned Victoria about. He was disappearing from his own daughter's life. "Lily, I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. I know you're helping that little girl, and I know the money is important. But you always told me that the people who are right in front of you matter more than the people who are far away. And I'm right in front of you, Dad." Marcus pushed the bills aside. He pulled his chair next to hers and put his arm around her. "You're right. You're absolutely right. And starting Monday, things are going to change."
"You're not going to quit, are you? Because I don't want you to quit. Gemma needs you."
"I'm not going to quit, but I'm going to set boundaries. I'll be home for dinner every night. I'll be here on weekends. And I'm going to talk to Victoria about bringing you to the house sometimes. You and Gemma should meet." Lily's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Really. Does she like dinosaurs?" "Kid, she's obsessed with dinosaurs." Lily grinned, and Marcus felt the ground steady beneath him. He'd been so busy saving someone else's family that he'd started to drift from his own. That ended now. Monday morning, he told Victoria, "I need to adjust my hours." Victoria was at the kitchen island. She'd taken to eating breakfast there every morning now, even on days when Gemma slept in. She'd started drinking her coffee at the counter instead of in her office. Small changes. Enormous changes. "Adjust how?" she asked. "I need to be home by 5:30 every day. No exceptions.
"And weekends are mine."
"That's a significant reduction in..." "Victoria..." She stopped, looked at him, read his face. "Your daughter," she said. "My daughter." Victoria set down her coffee. Something passed through her expression. Recognition, guilt, understanding. She knew exactly what it meant to lose focus on the person who mattered most. 5:30, she said. "Every day. And Marcus, bring Lily here sometime. I think Gemma would like that." "I was going to suggest the same thing." "Great minds." "Questionable minds, more like." Victoria almost laughed. She did that now. Almost laughed. The real laughs were still rare, still surprising, still events that caught everyone off guard. But the almost laughs were becoming frequent, and Marcus counted each one as a victory. He brought Lily to the house on a Wednesday afternoon. Gemma was waiting at the front door, which she never did.
She'd asked Marcus 4 times what Lily was like, and whether Lily would think she was weird, and whether she should change out of her regular clothes into something nicer. "Be yourself," Marcus had told her. "Lily doesn't care about clothes. She cares about dinosaurs and being honest and people who are kind." Lily walked in and looked at Gemma. Gemma looked at Lily. 2 girls separated by wealth and circumstance, and everything the world uses to divide people, standing 3 feet apart, sizing each other up. "Your dad makes really bad pancakes," Gemma said. "The worst," Lily agreed. "He says the Triceratops is his best one. It looks like a potato." Gemma's face broke into the biggest smile Marcus had ever seen from her. "That's exactly what it looks like." They disappeared upstairs within 5 minutes. Marcus could hear them talking, then laughing, then talking more. He stood at the bottom of the stairs and listened, and something in his chest that had been clenched tight for 4 months finally released. Helen appeared beside him. "2 girls who both lost something finding each other," she said. "That's not an accident, Marcus." "Don't get philosophical on me, Helen." "Too late." From that day forward, Lily came to the Ashford house twice a week. She and Gemma became inseparable in the way that only children can. Instantly, completely, without reservation or pretense. They drew together. They built forts. They created elaborate games with rules that made sense only to them. And Lily, who had grown up without a mother, gave Gemma something Marcus couldn't. She gave her a peer. Someone her own size who understood what it felt like when the world wasn't quite right, but you kept going anyway. Victoria watched from a distance at first. She'd stand in the doorway observing the girls, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. But over time, the distance shrank. She started sitting in the room while they played. Then she started asking questions. Then one afternoon, Marcus walked in to find Victoria on the floor, cross-legged, helping Gemma and Lily construct an elaborate dinosaur habitat out of cardboard boxes and markers. She looked up at him with marker on her cheek and an expression of absolute bewilderment, like she'd woken up in someone else's life and couldn't figure out how she'd gotten there. "I'm building a Jurassic swamp," she said. "I can see that. It needs more green." "Everything needs more green." Victoria went back to coloring. Gemma leaned against her mother's shoulder while she drew, casual and unconscious, like it was the most natural thing in the world, like she'd always done it, like the 3 years of distance and schedules and 37 strangers had never happened. Marcus took a photo with his phone. He didn't know why. He just felt like the moment needed to be held on to. 5 months in, Victoria called Marcus into her office after Gemma was asleep. Her voice on the phone was different, tight, controlled in a way that signaled something was wrong. He found her sitting behind her desk with a letter in her hands. "My father is sick," she said. Marcus sat down. "How sick?" "Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. His lawyer sent this." She held up the letter. "He didn't call. He didn't come to the house. He had his lawyer send a letter. Because I asked him to stay away, and apparently he's decided to honor that request, even while he's dying." Her voice cracked on the last word. Dying. The word hung in the air like smoke. "When was he diagnosed?" 3 months ago. He's been doing treatment. It's not working." Victoria pressed her fingers to her temples. 3 months, Marcus. He's known for 3 months, and he didn't tell me." "You told him to stay away." "He's my father." "I know." "He should have told me." "You're right. He should have." But he was trying to respect what you asked for. He was trying not to control you.
Victoria shoved back from the desk and stood up. She paced to the window and pressed her forehead against the glass. I've wasted so much time being angry, being afraid, building walls. And now he's dying and I can't get the time back. No, you can't. She turned and looked at him, and the rawness in her face was almost unbearable. Don't do that. Don't just agree with me. Tell me something helpful. Tell me something that makes this okay. I can't make this okay. Your father is dying. That's not okay. Nothing I say is going to change that. Then what do I do? You go see him. I can't. You can. You don't understand. The last time I saw my father was 2 years ago, at a lawyer's office. We were fighting over custody arrangements for Gemma. I looked at him across the table, and I told him he was a failure as a father, and that I would never let him do to Gemma what he did to me. Those were the last words I said to my father's face, 2 years ago. Then you go see him and say different words. Victoria's hands were shaking. What if it's too late? It's too late when they're gone. It's too late when you're 6 years old on a kitchen floor. It's too late when there are no more mornings left. Your father is alive right now, today, and you are standing here asking me what to do instead of getting in your car. Victoria stared at him. Then she grabbed her keys off the desk. Watch Gemma. I always watched Gemma. She was out the door in 30 seconds. Marcus heard her car start, heard the tires on the gravel, heard the gate open and close. Then silence. He sat in her office chair and looked at the letter from Richard's lawyer. Formal. Clinical. The kind of letter that reduced a man's life to legal paragraphs and medical terminology. His phone buzzed. Lily. Dad, you okay? You sound weird. He hadn't called her. She just knew. Kids always knew. I'm okay, Lil. Something happened at work. I might be late tonight. Is Gemma okay? Gemma's fine. She's asleep. Is her mom okay? Marcus paused. She's getting there. Victoria didn't come home that night, or the next morning. Marcus stayed with Gemma, made pancakes, took her through the day. At noon, his phone rang. Marcus. Victoria's voice sounded like she'd been crying for 12 hours. Because she had. I'm here. He looks so old. When did he get so old? He was always this giant, this force, this... And now he's in a hospital bed, and he weighs nothing. He's disappearing. How is he? He cried when he saw me. My father. The man who built a $3 billion company from a hardware store in Ohio. He cried like a child. He grabbed my hand and he said, I'm sorry, Victoria. I'm sorry for all of it. And She couldn't finish. What did you say to him? Marcus asked gently. I said, I know, Dad. I know. And then I climbed into the hospital bed next to him, and I held his hand and we sat there, for hours, not talking, just sitting together. And Marcus, it was the first time in 30 years that I've been in the same room as my father without wanting to scream or run or fight. That's everything, Victoria. That's all of it. He wants to see Gemma. Then bring her. I'm afraid. I know. What if she's scared? He's in a hospital. There are tubes and machines and... She's not going to see the tubes, Victoria. She's going to see her grandfather. Kids see people, not equipment. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Will you come with us? Of course. They went the next day. Marcus drove. Victoria sat in the passenger seat, rigid and silent. Gemma was in the back, quiet, but not anxious. Marcus had explained to her that her grandfather was sick and that they were going to visit him. Gemma had listened carefully and then asked one question. "Will he like me?" "He already loves you," Marcus said. "He's loved you since before you were born." Richard Ashford was in a private room at the hospital. He was thin, diminished, a fraction of the man who'd built an empire. But when the door opened and he saw Gemma, something happened in his face that Marcus would never forget. It was like watching the sun come up in a place that had been dark for decades. Every line, every shadow, every mark that time and illness had left on the old man's face was erased for a single, luminous moment by the sight of his granddaughter. "Well," Richard said, and his voice was weak but warm. "You must be Gemma." Gemma walked to the bed. She looked at her grandfather with those dark, serious eyes. She studied him the way she studied everything. Carefully, thoroughly, missing nothing. "You're my grandpa," she said. "I am." "Marcus told me you loved me." Richard's eyes filled. "Marcus is right." "Are you sick?" "I am, sweetheart. I'm very sick." Gemma considered this. Then she climbed onto the chair next to his bed, reached over, and took his hand. "When my mom was sad, Marcus made her pancakes. Do you like pancakes?" Richard laughed. It turned into a cough, and the cough turned into something that made Victoria flinch. But when it passed, the old man was smiling. Actually smiling. "I love pancakes." "Marcus makes terrible ones. They look like blobs. But they taste okay." "Then I'd like to try one." Gemma looked at Marcus. "Can you make Grandpa a pancake?" "I'll make him the best triceratops he's ever seen." "So it'll look like a potato." "A delicious potato." Victoria was standing by the window. Marcus glanced at her. She was watching Gemma hold Richard's hand, and her expression was something Marcus had never seen on her face before. Not pain, not control, not fear. Something simpler and more profound than any of those things. Gratitude. Pure, uncomplicated gratitude for a moment she'd almost let slip away forever. Richard looked past Gemma at his daughter. "Victoria." "Dad." "Come here." Victoria crossed the room. She stood beside the bed. Richard reached for her hand with his free one, the one Gemma wasn't holding. Victoria took it. "I was a terrible father," Richard said. "Dad, you don't have to—" "I was a terrible father. I lost your mother, and I lost myself, and then I lost you. And I spent 30 years trying to buy my way back instead of just showing up. I should have shown up. Every day. The way Marcus showed up for Gemma. The way you're showing up now." Victoria squeezed his hand. "I wasn't easy to show up for." "You were a child who needed her father. That's the easiest thing in the world to show up for. And I chose work. I chose the company. I chose everything except the one thing that mattered." "I forgive you," Victoria said. And she said it simply, without drama, without the weight of 3 decades pressing down on the words. She said it the way you say something you finally accepted. Not because the hurt is gone, but because carrying it has become heavier than letting it go. Richard closed his eyes. Tears ran down the old man's face. Gemma wiped one away with her small hand. "Don't cry, Grandpa." "These are happy tears, sweetheart." "That's what Marcus says when he cries at breakfast." Marcus cleared his throat. "I don't cry at breakfast." "You do," Gemma said. "You turn around so we can't see, but your shoulders shake." Victoria looked at Marcus. Something passed between them. Not romantic, not complicated, but real. A recognition. 2 people who had walked through their own versions of hell and found themselves standing on the other side, scarred and exhausted, and somehow still capable of feeling.
"Thank you," Victoria mouthed.
Marcus nodded. Richard Ashford lived for 3 more months. He spent most of that time at the estate, in a room Victoria set up for him on the first floor. Gemma visited him every day after her drawing time. She brought him pictures, dinosaurs, always dinosaurs, and he taped every single one to the wall next to his bed, until the wall was covered in a 7-year-old's gallery of Triceratops and T-Rexes, and the occasional Lopsidosaurus that Marcus had invented on that first morning. Victoria read to him at night, the same way she read to Gemma. She sat on the edge of his bed and turned pages, and neither of them pretended it was anything other than what it was: a daughter and a father, running out of time, and refusing to waste another second of it. Richard died on a Tuesday morning in November, peacefully in his sleep, with Gemma's drawings on the wall and Victoria's hand in his. The last words he said to his daughter the night before were, "You turned out better than I deserved." Victoria didn't fall apart. She didn't retreat. She didn't put on the blazer and the heels and rebuild the walls. She sat with her grief the way Marcus had taught her, not fighting it, not controlling it, just letting it exist. She cried. She raged. She sat on the kitchen floor at 3 in the morning, eating terrible leftover pancakes and telling Marcus stories about her childhood. The good parts, the ones she'd buried along with everything else. "He used to carry me on his shoulders," she said, "before Mom died. He'd carry me through the hardware store, and I'd touch the ceiling tiles and feel like I was flying." That's a good memory. I forgot it. For 30 years, I forgot that memory. I only remembered the bad ones. The empty house, the boarding school, the lawyers. That's what pain does. It eats the good memories first. But they come back? They come back. The funeral was private. Victoria, Gemma, Marcus, Helen, and a handful of Richard's oldest employees. No press, no spectacle, just people who'd known the man behind the empire, saying goodbye. After the service, Victoria pulled Marcus aside. "I've made a decision." "About what?" "About everything." She took a breath. "I'm stepping back from the company. Not permanently, but I'm taking a year, a full year, to be with Gemma, to figure out who I am when I'm not running from something." "That's brave." "It's terrifying." "Same thing." Victoria smiled, a real smile, full, unguarded, reaching her eyes. Marcus realized it was the first time he'd seen her smile like that. Not an almost smile, not a flicker, but the real thing. And it transformed her face so completely that she looked like a different person. She looked like the woman she might have been if that kitchen floor hadn't broken her at 6 years old. "I want you to stay," she said. "Not as Gemma's caretaker, as—" she struggled with the word. "As a friend. Our friend. Yours and Lily's." "Victoria, you don't need to pay me to be your friend." "I know. That's what makes it real." 6 months later, Marcus was sitting on the back porch of his new apartment. A 2-bedroom, clean, in a good school district, paid for with savings he'd built during his time at the Ashford estate. Lily was inside doing homework. The sun was going down, and his phone rang. "Marcus!" Victoria's voice was light, lighter than he'd ever heard it. "Gemma made me a pancake this morning." "How was it?" "Worse than yours." "Impossible." "It looked like a brontosaurus that had been stepped on." "Artistic license." "She wants to know if you and Lily are still coming for dinner Friday." "We'll be there. Tell Gemma I'm bringing the good pancake mix." She says, and I quote, "Tell Marcus his pancake mix is the same terrible pancake mix, and we love it." Marcus laughed. On the other end of the line, Victoria laughed too. And somewhere in the background, he could hear Gemma laughing. and the sound was so full and free and unafraid that it didn't sound like the same child he'd met 8 months ago. It didn't sound like a girl who'd been let down 37 times. It sounded like a kid. Just a kid, laughing in her mother's kitchen, exactly the way a kid should. After they hung up, Marcus sat on the porch and watched the light fade. He thought about Sarah. He thought about the years after she died, when he'd been so far away that Lily had to drag him back. He thought about Richard Ashford, dying in a room covered in dinosaur drawings, holding his daughter's hand after 30 years of silence. He thought about Victoria on the kitchen floor, telling him about her mother's cold hands. He thought about Gemma whispering, "They all leave." His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Dad, stop sitting on the porch being emotional and come help me with math." He smiled. He put the phone in his pocket and went inside. Some people spend their whole lives building walls. They build them out of money and schedules and silence and control. And they convince themselves that the walls are keeping them safe, when really, the walls are keeping them prisoner. And every now and then, someone comes along who doesn't try to climb the wall or break it down or go around it. Someone who just stands on the other side and says, "I'm not going anywhere." And they wait, and they show up, and they make terrible pancakes, and they tell the truth, even when the truth is the hardest thing anyone has ever heard. And one morning, the person behind the wall opens the door, not because the wall fell, because they chose to walk through it. Marcus Reed was not a therapist. He was not a billionaire. He was not a miracle worker. He was a man who had lost everything and learned the only lesson that mattered, that the people right in front of you are the only ones who count, and showing up is the bravest thing a person can do. And he never stopped showing up. Not once.